Okay, so meeting Melody Summers, Trent's new roommate. I'll try to keep my eyes open. There's been a couple of comments about my eyes being closed from different people, so I'll try to keep my eyes open. um, Meeting her, this was a difficult time for me because I'd never posted, as I said before, on the forums. And when you're writing, you kind of have control of everything. You know, your situation, your surroundings, your environment. And in this situation, I didn't really have that because I'm writing with a co-author, and so you kind of have to uh, make things work with the co-author, and you don't really know what's going to happen. So I tried to present Trent in this scene as best as I could to show both his compulsion and also his intelligence. So when he meets his new roommate, he, she's coming in, he's playing Choplin or Chopin, Chopin, again, words, right? Um, in a B flat minor number 2, and he attempts to get up from playing this. He's playing the extended version, and he attempts to get up and answer the door, and he can't. So that kind of immediately showed Trent's inability to really fight his compulsion. I suppose he could fight it if he really wanted to, but this kind of shows that he's irritated not only at the compulsion, but he's also irritated by the fact that he can't fight this need. And in comes walking this young, attractive woman who's going to be staying with him. And the whole situation was just Trent trying to control his environment, trying to maintain his need to control his environment. So the first thing he's doing is, mind your shoes, take your shoes off. I also wanted to show his intelligence and his ability to adapt to situations. So he's talking to her while he's playing, and there's no musical sheet present for him to follow along with. He's just doing this off the top of his head. And I also wanted to show he lives out in the middle of nowhere, the way his home was. So there was a lot of information that I was trying to put into this scene just as quickly as I possibly could. And she's coming into the situation. I'll let her describe her own situation should she desire to. And as he's playing this masterful art, he's trying to maintain some semblance of control. At the same time, he really doesn't have any. And I needed that to come across as clearly as possible, that it was impossible for him to stand up and get away from the situation, that his psyche just wouldn't allow it. So when she shows up, he's showing her around the home. He's trying to figure out, where are the rest of your bags? Why don't you have all your stuff with you? He lives, even though his home is kind of a poor environment, he lives to a certain standard, and she didn't meet that standard. Almost immediately he noticed this. So he needed her to be dressed in designer clothing. He needed her to present herself in a way that wouldn't influence or take away from this standard. And this is a guy that's lived by himself the whole time. He's used to getting along by himself. He's used to living in silence. He doesn't have cable in his house. He doesn't have a satellite dish in his house. He doesn't have internet in his home. His home is just a blank, empty square, so to speak, because he barely spends any time there. And when he is there, it's just asleep before he's up and he's out again. everything involves his back room, you know, his cellar, his cellar, the root cellar that I mentioned earlier in the back. So for him, the whole thing was just an inconvenience that had been thrown at him, and he was trying to deal with that the best way that he could. At the same time, he's dealing with a incredibly attractive woman, and she's quite younger than he is, and he's going to end up having to live with her. So this is also throwing a wrench into his plans and getting her settled as quickly as possible. Now, by this point, Trent had trained himself to get rid of the stutter, to get rid of his odd behaviors, but as a result, he has an almost comical baritone-like voice. And so I tried to present that as well. You know, he's remarkably deep-toned for a person his size. He sounds more like somebody that's a heavy smoker, a heavy drinker, somebody that spent a lot of time yelling, or you know, your average 500-pound guy. He sounds like he has a really deep, almost comical voice. And yeah, that's kind of how their first meeting went. You know, kind of showing his wealth, showing how uncomfortable the situation was while trying to maintain this personality of control, and also showing hints and subtle ways that he's just not, he's uncharacteristically present during this meeting, but it's all different. It's all off just a little bit. He's not quite there when he's meeting with her. So that kind of takes care of the meeting, and we'll probably skip around a little bit instead of jumping from one section to the next, and we'll jump to more interesting things, because I don't want the series to be, you know, 50 episodes long, but I also don't want you to miss out on things that I felt was relevant to the series. So hopefully this gives you an idea. See you in the next video.